Yo, welcome back to REXTECH, where we spread the good news of the cloud. So today I'm going to take you to my experience of how I got the offer to be a TAM, Technical Account Manager, at AWS. I've been in this role now for about 5 months, and I know it's been a while since I posted the last video for the TAM playlist, but your boy been working and I just haven't had the time to just sit down and just really continue this series. So I'm actually going to take you through the story from the beginning of how I even got initiated into the interview process to when I actually got the offer. And I'll show you the whirlwind of things that I had to go through before I even got that offer, right? People always think it's a clear-cut way of from the recruiter hitting you up to when you get the offer. It's never like that, man. It's never like that. Trust me, there's always so many things that happens. So I'm going to take you through the process, right? So it starts off from the recruiter. Crazy thing is that there was this lady who I had connected with 2 years ago. Like, I'm telling you, 2 years ago, right? Someone had told me to connect with her because she was a link to be able to get into the TechU program at AWS to become a solutions architect, right? So I connected with her a long time ago. For some reason, we chatted a little bit, but the communication kind of just fell off. We went about doing our own things. It's been about 2 years, and then boom, she posted a role for a TAM role, right? The crazy thing is the role expected you to be bilingual, like you had to be able to speak multiple languages. I don't know if it was Spanish or Mandarin. I don't know. By message, I was like, hey, I see you posted this role. This is a lady I haven't talked to in years, right? I said, I see you posted this role. I looked at the job description. It's something that, I want to shoot my shot in and see if I can, enter the interview process. I don't know what possessed me to actually reach out to her and say, hey, I want to go for this role that's bilingual. But she hit me up again. She responded, which is crazy because I haven't chat to her in so long. She responded back and she didn't even talk about the role. She was just like, where are you based? I'm like, I'm based in Dallas, Texas. And she said, well, this role isn't, based in that area, right? So the conversation kind of like died off. But a couple of days after, literally like 2 days after, she's messaging me and said, hey, there's a TAM role in Dallas, which I want you to apply for. I think you'd be a good fit for. So I was like, what the heck? Okay, cool. Now, mind you, before this, I've applied to AWS about 25 times. Like, I'm crazy. Like, listen, I've been targeting AWS for the past 2 years, right? This was a very strategic move. And you might ask, how did you target AWS? Well, I started networking with a lot of Amazonians 2 years ago. I mean, literally so much. Every single week I was targeting Amazonians. You know, when they ask the questions in the interviews, why do you want to work at the organization? Well, the thing is, I had that answer 2 years ago, and I just needed to connect with as much people because I wanted to learn more about Amazon. I wanted to learn more about the different roles, learn about the culture. So I had 2 years of just prepping myself and asking so many people who work at Amazon, who work at AWS, how it works there, how the day of life is. I've been watching videos, doing a bunch of research. So it wasn't the matter of fact of if I wanted to work at AWS. It was more of, how do I get an opportunity to get an interview? Because once I get the interview and I speak to you, you would know that, hey, this is someone who actually wants to work here. They've done their research, blah, blah, blah. Because really and truly, if you really think about it, most people who are applying to multiple jobs at the same time, they do their research for the job maybe like 2 weeks before or 2 days before the actual interview. Unless it's a place you actually wanted to work for a long time ago, most people in general actually prepare for interviews like 40 minutes before the actual interview. They go and research the company, look at their mission, look at their vision, and then try and figure out a story of how their life fits into that, and then try and match that in the interview itself to make it seem like, yeah, I've always wanted to work here. What do you mean? I was born and raised, I wanted to work at this organization. I fit with your vision, I fit with your mission, whatever. So it was very genuine, right? I really wanted to work at AWS, and I did a lot of strategic moves. I've talked to a lot of people. I've done a lot of coffee chats. I've connected with so many people in person, over video chat, on a phone call, just so I can understand what this place is, which I'm actually, passionate about working for, right? She said, apply for this role. Okay, so I look at the role, I look at the job description. It says senior TAM, right? And so I messaged her, I'm like, yo, this role is for a senior TAM. I'm looking at the job description. I don't think I fit the requirements for this. And she was like, that's okay, just apply. When you get into the interview process, when you actually interview, they will level you. Back then, I didn't even know what that meant, level you. Like, how you do in the interview, they would see if, they can bring you in as an L6, or they bring you as an L5, or they bring you in as an L4. It doesn't really matter. They level you once you get in. And also the job roles sometimes that you actually apply for, I'm realizing, doesn't really matter. It's almost like as long as you get into the interview process is all that matters. So at that point, I was like, okay, let me apply to this role. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I didn't even know what the TAM role was. I just read the job description and it looked like it fit me, right? It looked, actually, I saw it as a pathway to get to the ultimate role which I wanted, which is solutions architect, right? That was the role I was passionate about. That was the role I always wanted to get into with AWS, and it's still something I hold dear to my heart. It may be a role that I look forward to in the future, but I felt like it was a pathway for me to get there, right? So, and I also felt like the TAM role fit close to who I was, right? I loved communicating and being close to customers. I did love advocating, did love educating, also love the technical part of it. So I really talked much and explained what the TAM role is on this channel, but I'll make another video on that, just explain the dynamics of who would actually make a good TAM at AWS, all right? But after I read the description, I'm like, oh, this speaks to me. So did the process, right? Jumped in, I applied, and then I didn't even apply. What happened was I said, yes, I want to enter inside this interview process. She sent me a form, right? A form where you're supposed to basically gauge your skills on specific domains, right? Say, hey, do you know this domain deeper enough? Like whether it's networking, security, database, like you rate yourself on this domain. So I guess during the interview process, we can actually assess you on the areas that, you're good at, or your area of depth, whatever, right? So I rated myself on different domains, sent it back. And then she said, okay, I'm going to send you an online assessment. I'm like, okay, cool. That was on a Thursday, I believe, online assessment. So I'm like, okay, cool. She's going to send it the next day on Friday. The email came in, but it's supposed to be a separate email specifically for the online assessment. I never got the second email. So I'm like, I have this email here that says that you're inside the interview process, you have the online assessment, but I did not get the email. So I messaged her back. I waited, when was the next day on a Friday? Messaged her back and said, hey, I didn't get the online assessment. Like, what's happening? At this time, I already knew the process. The online assessment, you have 7-day span to complete it. So in my head, I'm like, if I don't get with this lady by Friday, that means Friday, Saturday, Monday, I will miss 3 days of me being able to do the online assessment. I only have 4 days. I have to rush and try and do it. So I was messaging her on Friday. Couldn't reach her on LinkedIn, email, nothing. So I'm like, what the freak is going on? So this is where my network really came in handy, right? I started going through my entire network of LinkedIn people who I've connected with, and I started looking for TAMs. Like, who's TAM, who's located in this area? And I found this lady who I spoke to not too long ago. And I said, hey, this is my issue. I'm inside the interview process. This lady said I'm supposed to have the online assessment, but I don't see it in my email. What can you do? Or can you, I don't know, can you pull some type of magic for me? And I already knew from talking to other Amazonians that in AWS, you can Slack anybody. Like literally, you have open range to message anybody, whatever level. So what she did is she said, hey, I can message the recruiter and nudge her and she can send you the online assessment, whatever. And then next thing you know, she came back to me and she said, oh, the lady's on vacation. I was like, oh my freaking God. So I don't have the online assessment. The person is on vacation and she doesn't come back until Monday. So at that point, I just relaxed, right? I was like, okay, cool. Let's wait until Monday and then have her message her directly internally and tell her, hey, I didn't get the online assessment. The day comes, she's supposed to be back at work, but apparently still couldn't get no communication. So what the Amazonian who was working on my behalf did, Shout out to you, by the way. You know who you are. She messaged the higher level recruiter, I guess is what you want to call it, and said, hey, the other person was trying to work with this person, but they haven't got the information that they needed. They haven't got the online assessment email. Like, what can we do moving forward? Next thing I know, in a couple of minutes, in my email, I saw the online assessment. So I'm like, oh, shoot. This is why you need people who can go to bat for you. This is why you network with people, because they can do stuff like that for you on your behalf. Internally, this lady was working for me, right? So the higher level recruiter sent me the online assessment. So I'm like, okay, cool. Let's get to work. So I start scouring the freaking internet on how do you prepare for the online assessment for AWS. And I started realizing like job families correlate with online assessments, which is cloud support engineers, solutions architects, and technical account managers. The questions are very similar. This is from gathering information online, right? They're not asking very complex, deep cloud, Kubernetes like questions. No, everything is very basic, right? It's very fundamental. They ask you questions on computer components, right? They ask you questions on networking, right? Fundamentals. They ask you questions on security fundamentals. They ask you questions on DevOps fundamentals. They want to ask you things like how do you necessarily troubleshoot Kubernetes cluster or something. They'll more ask you like, okay, what is a cluster? What is Docker? What is replica set? Like explaining that was what was. So the online assessment, I realized had two parts, right? There's the behavioral leadership principle part and there's the technical part, right? Now the online assessment is not proctored, and it's also what I say, you don't really have a time limit either. So you can just take your time and take the test. You don't have to rush it. No one is talking to you. You don't have to go in a video. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be an easy breeze, right? I don't have the pressures of an actual interview. So I go in there and I started it. I opened it up and I started doing some of the questions. I'm still under the impression that, don't underestimate this online assessment. Still go in here and do the work you need to do. And I go in there and it's very basic stuff, man. And basic stuff to where the fact that if you don't revise these fundamental things, you would forget it. Like very fundamental things. Like think of when you need to explain like the OSI model, right? Or difference between asymmetric and symmetric encryption and understanding the process that goes on between that. And I was like, oh, okay. I did the online assessment, did the behavioral part, which was very different, very weird. After I finished it, I thought it was over with. I'm like, yeah, I didn't make it this time. Let's try again. I didn't pass, whatever. And I didn't hear nothing from the recruiter. 1 day gone, boom, nothing. 2 days gone, nothing. At the end of the second day, the recruiter hit me up. Like, yo, you passed. It's like, what? How? Like, I seriously thought I failed. And during the waiting time of those 2 days, I messaged them back and said, hey, like, I don't know if I did good in the online assessment, but it's done. And I'm hoping I passed. Just being optimistic. No response. The second day is when I got the response, right? And it was positive. Like, okay, I passed. I'm like, okay, cool. Now going through the process of this, I can't think about the end goal. I tend to think about getting an offer, whether I get rejected or not, because the process I knew was going to be long. It wasn't going to be no 2-week experience, maybe not 3 weeks. I knew when you interview for these FAANG companies, it's a drawn out process because there's so many things that have to come together to put this interview together, right? So to me, I was like, just focus on the next step, focus on the process, focus on passing each step. Don't think about the loop, don't think about the offer, just think about online assessment. Okay, what's after the online assessment? Okay, you speak to the recruiter and talk more about whatever, right? So past the online assessment, to my surprise, I'm like, I don't know how the heck I'm doing this, but I'm moving forward. Then I had a meeting with the recruiter, right? This is the high level recruiter. And what they said to me was, are you willing to relocate for this role? Oh my God. I was like, what do you mean by relocate? He's like, yeah, the role is based in California. And I'm just like, dude, I'm thinking, I literally just moved to Dallas about 7 months ago, right? Me and my wife. And in my head, making a decision for the family, I don't want to pick up my family and move them again to another different location, right? There was a reason why we came to Dallas, and relocating to a different place that's high cost of living a new environment and trying to get new friends and blah, blah, blah. Like, I didn't want to put them through that. I already wrote off the role. Right? It's like, okay, it's over with. Like, they want me to go to California, I'm gonna say no. But something came in my mind, right? So I believe in God, right? I'm born again Christian, and I believe the Holy Spirit put that in my mind and said, just ask your wife. And this is why it's great to marry someone with the discernment from the Holy Spirit, who God can speak to also, not just you, right? So I went to ask my wife, right? Hey, if I get this role, they're gonna be asking us to relocate to a different place. So I asked her, are you willing to relocate if I get this job? And I'm already assuming she's gonna say no, heck no. Like, I'm not trying to relocate. This woman said the craziest thing that I only believe the Holy Spirit told her. She said, don't worry about that relocation, right? Go through the process. We worry about that in the end. So that gave me the peace of like, well, she wants me to go through the process. She didn't say, hey, she's open to it. She just said, we will worry about that when the time comes. Meaning, just go through the process. Whatever happens, we will decide at the end. And that was the smartest and craziest thing that she could have said. So I'm like, okay, cool. I went back to the recruiter. I'm like, okay, we're going to go through the process. Me and my wife is open. I said that we're open to relocate. But I still said, hey, if it was up to us, we don't want to relocate, but we're open to it. So as soon as I said I was open to it, boom, process started. Like, okay, you're open, let's kick it off. We had to set up the phone screen. So the phone screen is not an actual phone screen, it's an actual video call that's audio and visual, right? The phone screen was one-on-one with a senior TAM, someone who was already operating in the role and is in a senior level, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. So did some research, found out all that was encompassing in that specific interview. My recruiter was very good at also helping me like prepare for it and knowing what to come inside the exactly phone screen. I checked all over the internet. Yo, listen, preparing for these interviews, half of the battle is just getting enough information and resources to put together before you can even prepare. So I literally went to Glassdoor, I went to a bunch of resources, and I created information, I created some documents, I created some resources that I was using to help me through this process, right? And about those resources, in another video, once I actually put it together into something that is structurally sound and consolidated, then I believe I would, one of these videos, I will release it to y'all so whoever's preparing for a TAM interview can actually have the resources, because the process of putting it all together is half of the battle. Preparing for it is the other half. So if I can help you in that way of having some resource that is already consolidated with a lot of information and resources and links where you can go to get the information, that would help you, empower you to be able to be more effective and efficient with your preparation to pass this TAM interview, right? Now, I don't know, for my efforts, it was a lot of effort. For my efforts, I may charge maybe like $20 or something for it. But I still would tell you, if I do make a video and I release it, I still would let you know exactly where I got it for free. I would tell you where I got all the information from. It's gonna be like 10 to 20 different resources, right? And you have the option to go yourself and figure it out. Or you can use a resource, which I will sell you for like $20, right? So I know some people are lazy, they don't want to go through the process, so I'll give you the option. Hey, just pay for this, get it, this is what I used, or this is the resource, you can get it for free. All right, back to it. So got all the resources, did I really need to do? It was insane, because what I did was I got a bunch of information from different places. I got a lot of possible questions that I might get on the interview. I put all that into ChatGPT and asked ChatGPT to please consolidate all these 150 questions. I want you to categorize them by different domains, whether it was networking, security, blah, blah, blah. And I need you to remove duplicate questions. Any questions that seem similar to each other, remove it, whatever, right? So that's what I studied to prepare for this interview. So I'm not gonna get too into the phone screen, but I did the phone screen, and it was a great experience. That was my first time really experiencing an interview. To me, the online assessment and the interview with the recruiter wasn't really an interview, right? It was just casual talk, whatever, right? This was the actual interview. And I've heard so much. While I was gathering all these resources, I was also getting feedback from a bunch of people who were talking about their interview experience. So a lot of people had good experiences, a lot of people had bad experiences based on what they were saying online. Now the bad experiences were on the extreme end, like very polarized. So I was thinking, man, I need to prepare for this. I hope they're not gonna like kill me with questions. But I went in and it was nothing that I expected, right? The person who was interviewing me was very accommodative, right? The questions they were asking, the follow-up questions, their demeanor, their personality, the way how they were asking the question wasn't rushed. It was very, it was conversational. And I didn't go in thinking it was going to be like that. But there was about 2 questions I could not answer. But I remember I did tell him that, hey, I don't know this answer. Because he asked me something and I started explaining what the thing is, like the definition of it. But he was more asking, what is the use case? How would you use this? And I kept explaining what the thing was because I didn't know how you'd use it. I explained it. I told him, okay, I don't know the use case, but I do know the definition. And this is what it is. But the use case, I forgot at this moment. And but I will find out, right? I didn't tell him I was going to let him know, but I just told him I will find out. After the interview was done, what I did, searched that dude on LinkedIn, found the answer, and I sent it to him on LinkedIn. I said, hey, this is the answer from our interview today. I don't know if that helps my case, but I just needed to give you the correct answer because I needed it for me. So I could remember what the use case to use this technology is. One day, didn't hear nothing from the recruiter. I'm like, well, I guess I failed. Second day, didn't hear nothing from the recruiter. I guess I failed. And then the third day, I got a response back. And the recruiter was like, yo, good news, you made it to the loop. I was like, what? How the heck did I make it to the loop? There is no way. Like, I got answers wrong. I couldn't answer questions. I couldn't figure out the answer for certain things. I just got stuff wrong. So to me, my typical experience that once you're getting stuff wrong at an interview, it's over for you. Like, nobody's gonna pick you. Like, we're moving on to the next person who has more experience or who was able to answer the question. So when he said, yo, you made it to the loop, I was like, that's pretty insane. And at this point, I haven't prepared for the loop. I haven't thought about the loop because I'm like one step at a time. So I passed that, and then that's when we had to schedule for the loop. So you usually schedule it 3 weeks in advance because you have to, like, it's not something you prepare the next day. And it's definitely not something you want to schedule the next day because you want to be able to relax. You want to be able to really prepare for the loop, right? So I gave them a specific time. I gave them my preferred time. It was like 4 slots or whatever. It was like 4 slots over 2 days or something like that. I just do remember that the slot I gave with my least convenient because you had to rate it, right? And it basically asked which one is your first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, whatever. And I think it was top 5 or top 4. So my 5th choice, I just put something there because of like, hey, I didn't have any more convenient time. I just put it there like, hey, I'm pretty sure they can make my first or second or third choice, right? Like there's no way they'll go all the way to 5. You will believe that the 5th choice was the choice that which was chosen for the day which I was gonna do my loop. I was like, man, what the heck? Like how the heck did you miss 1, 2, 3, and 4? And that's where I had to tell y'all. The scheduling is not just your time. The scheduling is also the Amazonians who are going to be interviewing you. And they have a lot of stuff going on themselves. So they have to be open on those specific days to be able to interview you. So that's how I ended up with my 5th, my least most convenient time. Once I got that date approved and I realized, God, man, this is the worst date ever. I went to my manager. I was like, hey, I need to schedule vacation on this day. The good thing was that the previous place I was working with, we had flexible vacation, PTO, so you can just take the day off unlimited how many times you want, right? So I said, hey, on this day, I'm not going to be here. I'm taking it out. Little did he know I was about to interview for Amazon, for AWS. But hey, that's just the reality of how life works, right? So the loop came. 3 weeks was insane, right? And this is also where your network comes in. Within those 3 weeks, I messaged about 30 times. I said, hey, I'm about to prepare for the loop. Can you please help me or assist me or give me pointers, give me advice, whatever. Out of the 30, 20 people responded back. Positive. Oh, cool. This is what, blah, blah, blah. About 15 of them gave me, like, had real good communication. They were keeping up with me each day. And then about 4 of them, I mean, literally 4 of them took me under their wing and mentored me through the entire process. And that is why you need a network of people behind your back. I was able to send to 30, but really only 4. I said only 4 is a good amount, right? But out of the 30, 4 were able to help me and really like pour into me during the process, right? Listen, I was asking questions to them every single day. Yo, like, this is what I'm doing. This is the stories I have written up. Does this story look good? Like, do I need to work on this story? Blah, blah, blah. It was just a lot of people that I could really lean on, and that helped a lot, right? So I went into the loop. I was terrified. I'm not gonna lie, terrified of the loop, because this is 4 hours of interviewing. This is 4 different interview sessions, back to back to back to back, the whole day. Well, the whole day is, and then it's like 10 minutes or 15-minute break between each, whatever. So it can last anywhere from 5 hours to 7 hours, because not every single one is booked right after each other. You might do one and then you have like a 30-minute break because of scheduling, right? And then you have another one for another hour. Then maybe you have like a 1 hour break, and then you have another one. It just keep going, right? So there's no break. It depends on how yours is scheduled. So for me, my first 2 was back to back, and then I had like a 30-minute break, and then I had another one, and then my last one was 2 hours after that. So luckily, that actually helped. So the first interview I had, this is where things start getting crazy. The first interview I had, I got on, right? And I'm the only one on the call. I'm like, yo, what the heck is going on? Like, are these people punking me right now? Like, there's no way I'm doing an Amazon loop right now. 5 minutes in, no one was there. So I messaged my recruiter and said, hey, do I have the right time? Because I'm 5 minutes in and no one has messaged me. And he did something, but there was some miscommunication with scheduling. And I'm telling you, y'all, the scheduling stuff and like, this is the things that be happening, and it's natural. And no one is perfect, right? And at that moment, if I was someone else, I'd be flustered, like, oh shoot, like why isn't this person here? Like, I'm already prepared. Like, am I gonna lose everything that I prepared for? Like, are they gonna reschedule me? No, I was just like, hey, listen, relax. Next thing I knew, the recruiter hit me up and was like, hey, there was some miscommunication. The person who was supposed to interview will be there within the next 10 minutes. So in my head, I'm like, the next interview is supposed to be on the hour. It's supposed to be back to back. So if this person comes in 15 minutes, I've lost 15 minutes out of this interview. How is that going to work for the next interview? Like, is the other person going to wait? Like, that's all that's going through my head, right? But I'm like, just relax. Just take on this interview as it is. In less than 3 minutes, the interviewer came on, and first thing he said, he apologized, and he was a little bit flustered himself, and I could tell and I could understand, right? Hey, dude, you're interviewing a candidate, and there was some miscommunication, and you're trying to make sure the candidate has a good experience. And he came in, just apologizing. He was like, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. And at that moment, I had empathy for him. And I realized, oh, shoot, I shouldn't be stressed. He is actually stressed. Like, I need to de-escalate this situation. What can I do? So I told him, hey, no, it's okay. I said, relax. No, well, I didn't say relax. I said, it's okay. Like, I understand, like, these things happen. Nobody's perfect. Sometimes, you think you can plan as much as you can, but things happen, right? So at that moment, in my head, I'm like, did this person even read my resume? Because he's just jumping on the call. Does he even know who I am? Did he do a rebrief? Like, because I don't know what's happening in the background. I don't know what already occurred. So when he came in, I spent the first 1 minute setting and just relaxing the tension. That's what I was doing. Like, hey, it's okay, relax. And I was looking at his background. I think he had some soccer picture or something. I started talking about the soccer, and like, that was happening the first 1 minute. And it's so crazy because at that moment, like, in that situation, I had leverage. I had all the leverage because I was the one setting the tone for the interview, which was crazy. But realizing what he was going through at that moment, could see that it wasn't his fault. It was just, things just happened, right? Interview was great, man. It was insanely great. The dude, again, asked great questions. He was relaxed. Any information he needed or needed to get more of, he would just ask another question for me to get the answer. And then once he got the answer, he would write it down and then he'd move on to the next thing. So we were able to do what we needed to do even after starting late. We were able to get our session done. And it was very positive, even how it started, right? He did say something. He's like, this was a good conversation. You have to be able to look for some cues. They try not to. Don't give any cues that this person was good in the interview or not, right? Me, as someone who really observes people very closely and understands psychology and nonverbal communication and smiling and like stuff like that, I could tell that this was a good interview. So I'm like, okay, cool. First one down. I still got freaking 3 more to go. So that was done. 5 minutes passed after the hour. Next person hopped on. So we're doing this round robin, right? One interview gone, second interview gone. Second person comes in, we chop it up, the next first 5 minutes, introductions. And this was the tech breadth interview. The previous one was a tech depth interview. That was the first one, right? This is tech breadth. And if you don't know what this is, watch my previous video of where I kind of explain each interview in a loop and what is actually incorporated and what is talked about, what is the objective in each interview. So after we chopped it up, the guy was basically like, hey, we have to hit many different domains. It's going to be $1 questions. It's gonna feel like I'm just asking questions, but once I get the answer that I need from you, I'm just going to move on because we have a lot to cover. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, cool. I think he's just going to run down the different domains, right? Because the tech breadth, you want to see what you actually know and what you can understand, what you can explain across the board. I'm here thinking, oh man, please let him ask me something about compute or something like that. Let me start off strong because that's my area. Serverless, compute, maybe do some Linux, maybe some stuff like that. This dude, the first question, the first domain he hit, networking. I was like, oh my gosh, why are you starting with networking? That's literally my least area of depth is networking. It's not that I necessarily know it, but I don't like it. It's not complex also, but it's just not an area that I've spent a lot of time in. It's not an area that I've dove deep into, and it's not an area that's fun for me to get into, right? So when he started asking, I'm like, okay, well, I still did prepare for this, right? And it's fundamental stuff. So he started with networking, boom, started hitting me with networking stuff, boom, boom, boom. And the crazy thing is, you think you don't know this stuff, but when you start talking, or better yet, when you've practiced, even with questions that come up that you didn't practice, you will be able to articulate and talk about it because you've prepared to be in that setting, to be in that environment, to talk about this technology. So he was hitting me with questions, boom. And the thing is, once I started giving him too much information, he would kind of stop me because like, I don't need that information, right? Because the thing is that they only need a certain level of information from you to gauge if you know this technology at the fundamental level, right? He'd give me a question and I'll answer it and I'll start going deep and he's like, oh no, that's good enough. Next question. I talk again. I'll start going deeper again. He said, oh, that's good. Next question. And after networking, he went to like security and then he went to databases. Then databases, another area that's not my area of depth, but we started talking about databases. Then he went to DevOps. Then he went to all types of stuff, right? Just kept going down the line. And that was an interview that kind of felt like rapid fire. But it wasn't rapid fire. It was more of, as I was talking and trying to give more information, he didn't need all of that. He only needed like the high level stuff. On to the next, on to the next, on to the next. And it was like ping ponging from one question to the other one. So you start with networking, then you keep going down the line with questions, move on to security, going down the line with questions, move on to the next thing, blah, blah, blah. So that one is where I felt I had I felt more confident in that one than the first one. So when we finished that, I'm like, cool. Then I had like 30 minutes to prepare for the other one. So I think I got up from my chair and I went to my wife. I was like, yo, these dudes are drilling me right now, man. I don't know what to expect for the next one. Because the last two are the behavioral leadership type questions, right? Leadership type interviews. The next one I knew was going to be the bar raiser interview. Because before you actually get the interviews, your recruiter is going to send you a list of the people who you're going to be interviewing. I researched all of them. I went on LinkedIn, I went on Google, just researched who they are. And I realized that those who are actually in the TAM role would most likely be my technical interviewers and someone else who was, or the hiring manager. And those who were part of the interview schedule, who were not TAMs, those were the bar raisers. So I was like, okay, these two people are the bar raisers. I need to make sure I can focus on them. I can do research on them. I can figure out which school they went to, what their role is. Just looking for any way where I can relate to them when we actually talk. And what's crazy is the bar raiser interview for me was the best one because I got them smiling, man. Listen, once you can get people smiling and laughing and it's conversational in an interview, you know it's going well. The crazy thing about the bar raiser interview and the final hiring manager interview, a lot of my examples, actually my top best stories in the entire process weren't technical, which is crazy. A lot of people think, hey, you have to give technical stories, technical experience. Before, I was actually working as a sports event project manager, right? Anybody who knows events, hosting supporting events, those are high stakes, a lot of teams working together, high pressured, high stressed job, right? And no matter how much you plan, things always go wrong. You have to figure it out on the way. A lot of my strongest impactful stories came from when I was working that job, and I told them in the interview with the bar raisers. Man, those were some crazy stories that hit so hard. And I think that is what really solidified my role, was the bar raiser and the two technicals that went well. Because the hiring manager round, which was the last one, didn't go too well for me. I didn't think it went well, right? I remember there was a question that he asked me, tell me about a time where you did this. And I started talking about it based on my experience. And he started digging more into that question, like asking me follow-up questions a lot. I'm like, why is he digging so much in this specific question? And then he gave me a backstory of, this is something he's dealing with right now with his customer. So he was trying to see how I would respond in that same situation. And I don't think I responded in the right way, which he had responded because he already went through it, or if he would have liked me to respond. The action that I gave in my story wasn't what he would have done, or wasn't the best way I could have gone about doing it. So I think that really hit me, that really dinged me on that. I finished that interview, and at that time, I went back to my wife. I was like, yo, dusted, I'm done. It felt like 24 hours of interview. That's how it felt. I felt drained. I felt tired. I wasn't stressed at that point. I was more relieved that, dang, I'm finally done with this crap. I don't care what the results is at this moment. I'm just done. I can say that I actually finished a complete AWS interview. The loop, everything was done. So the week after was my wife's birthday, and we already had scheduled a vacation at this getaway place. It was like a cabin. We're leaving on the Friday, whatever, right? So to me, I was like, even if I don't get this role, I'm gonna spend this time with my wife, and we're gonna relax, right? Go on vacation. So this was on a Tuesday or something like that when I did the loop. Then you have a week. The next week, Monday. Listen, this was that week of waiting was the worst time, because you're stressed, like, yo, when is this person gonna call me? Just tell me the answer. Like, let me know if I didn't make it or not. Like, I'll rather you just tell me I didn't make it than have me wait. So on the following Monday, the recruiter hit me up, called me. Listen, when that phone rang, it felt like the most important call I ever had in my life. I saw my phone ringing. I was like, yo, I started sweating. I'm like, yo, what the heck is this guy gonna say? Got on the phone. The recruiter said, I have some good news and bad news. I'm like, what the freak are you talking about? Good news and bad news. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Did I get the job or not? And he said, the team, well, let me try and put it like this. You didn't get an offer because we didn't think you were a right fit for the team or for the job role. And I said, what does that mean? But then he was like, but the panel who interviewed you felt that you are a great fit for Amazon. You are a great fit for the TAM role. You just weren't a great fit for this job specific role or this specific team. So I'm like, okay, what the heck does that mean? Do I get an offer or not? Like, what, dude? Like, so he let me know. I didn't say this to him on the phone. I just was in my head. This is what's going on. So he said, this is what we're gonna do. You passed the loop, right? We think you're an Amazonian, and we think you'll be a great TAM. He said, we need to find you a team. We need to find you a team and place you on a team. So in my head, I'm like, okay, good news and bad news, that is correct. But how long is it going to take for you to place me on a team? So he said it can take, I can't believe if he said it can take anywhere from 3 weeks or a couple of months. So in my head, I'm like, man, what the freak, dude? Like, this doesn't make any sense. I went through this entire process. I basically passed the interview, but I don't get a job. And it's not guaranteed whether it's going to be the next 3 weeks or the next 3 months. So in my head, I'm like, what the freak? Like, what am I doing here, right? So I'm like, geez. Long story short, we got off the call, right? And I was talking to my wife, and I'm like, I don't know how to feel. Like, what do I do? Like, do I keep continuing looking for other roles, or do I wait for them to like give me a job? And at that moment, at that time, I was still interviewing for other jobs at the same time, and I had let the interviewer know. I actually got an offer for another job. It wasn't a job that I actually wanted, tell you the truth, but I did get an offer. So at this point, I had to make a decision between declining a for sure offer or waiting out the period to get placed on a team. And I prayed about it, talked to my wife, and at that moment, I was like, you don't want to work there. You have the offer. Just remove it, like forget about it. So I declined that offer, but I also told the recruiter, I said, listen, I'm declining this offer. So I need you to know I'm declining this offer because I am still interested in the AWS role. I still want to work for Amazon. I'm declining this offer, and because to show my allegiance to AWS and me having interest in working here. Okay? Even though I don't have a guaranteed offer, I'm telling you that I'm declining the offer that I have now for an opportunity to work there, right? Good. Because, I wanted him to go to bat for me. I wanted him to go to ends meet, go to the ends of the world to look for a team for me. Like, I wanted him to go hard for me. Because, like, yo, I just declined this offer, bro. Get me something. 2 days, 3 days, I was antsy, man. Like, I didn't know what to do. So what I started to do, I went to my network, started hitting up TAMs from LinkedIn. I was like, hey, this is the situation. I need to find a team. Does your team have an opening? Do you know another team that has an opening? And I started realizing I was frantically messaging people, and I don't think that was a good thing, right? I started realizing that I was operating almost out of fear, and I was just messaging all types of people and asking them, hey, can you help me get a job, blah, blah, blah. And at that moment, I was like, let me stop, right? Let me trust what God has for me. Let me trust the recruiter. The recruiter wants me to get the job. The recruiter, we are already gone through the process. It's only in their best interest that I do find a team. So I know he's going to bat for me. I just have to relax and trust that he's going to get me to the role. Okay? The crazy thing about this entire process is I'm thinking, whatever team he actually finds, where is it going to be located? Like, at least before, I knew that if I got the job, I would have to relocate to California. Suppose he finds me a team that's in New Jersey or Wisconsin. Like, okay, I'm not... no shade to people in Wisconsin, but I'm like, suppose this dude puts me in some Timbuktu place in America. Like, I don't know where I'm going to be placed. Like, at least I knew I was going to be in Cali. Like, if this dude finds a team that said, like, I like the Midwest. Like, I've lived in the Midwest for like 8 years. I'm like, I'm not going back to the Midwest. If the dude finds me a team in Iowa or something like that, I'm like, I'm not trying to go there, bro. So that was also going through my head. I'm like, this team can be located anywhere, and he might need me to relocate, and I don't know if I'll be open to it. Remember, the Friday is when we are leaving. Me and my wife are leaving to go to her birthday and celebrate. This guy on the Friday, this was 6 days after, right? Monday was when he called me. So not 6 days, I'm doing my math, it's horrible. 4 days after, on Friday, he hits me up on an email. So this is what he said in the email. He said, good news, I found a team for you. And, before I continue this, so before when I talked to him, he said, you're going to have to interview for the new team, but it'll only be one interview with the hiring manager. So I'm like, dang, I still got to do another interview? Whatever, at least only one. So when he messaged me, he's like, yo, we found a team for you. And the good news is this team is waiting to go straight to offer. You don't have to do an interview. So I was like, let's go. Let's freaking go. I got an offer. He's like, when can I call you? I'm like, call me now, bro. Hit me up. Call me. So then he was like, nah, I'll call you like in the afternoon because, you know, I'm a bit busy right now. So I'm like, okay, cool. 4 hours later, I saw my phone ring on again, one of the most important calls, because at this moment, I know I have an offer, but I still don't know where the heck this dude is going to place me in USA, right? Or force me to relocate. So he got on the call and he's like, yes, we got an offer for you. We got a team for you. I was excited, but I was still waiting for him to say where it's going to be. The next thing he said was like, what's an even better news? You don't have to relocate. You can stay in Dallas. Listen, I went ballistic. I went crazy. I was like, let's freaking go. What? Let's go. Let's go. So then I'm looking at my wife. I'm like, dude, if you didn't tell me to go through this process, there is no way this miracle could have happened to where the team I interviewed for rejected me, and then I got placed on a team that's located in Dallas where I don't have to relocate. And I truly believe the only reason I was able to jump on that team in Dallas was because I was already in the system. I had already interviewed, and he just had to place me there. If I had applied from the front door to try and get into a Dallas team, I don't think it would have happened. So you see how God kind of orchestrated that together through my wife? Like my wife telling me, yo, just go through the process, and then me supposed to be relocating to Cali, and then ended up some other miraculous means ended up landing a role for a team that's based in Dallas. When the dude told me that, I was like, yo, at that moment, I didn't even care about what the amount of the offer was. You know, obviously, like when you get an offer, the salary amount, the total compensation is what you're worried about, right? You want to hear that first. But when he told me Dallas, I was like, yo, bro, what? There's no way I could make this up. There's no way I could have there's no way at the beginning of the interview process I could have thought this is how I would get my offer, and this is how the situation would turn out to be. So when he told me that, I'm like, okay, cool, let me relax. Okay, what's the offer, right? The dude told me the offer. Listen to me. When the guy told me the number, right? Obviously I did my research. I know what is the range, blah, blah, blah. I also ask people internally, but it's different when he actually tells you the number over the phone. And the thing is, I know how much I was making before. And when he told me that, I was like, bro, this dude does not realize that he literally just changed my freaking life. Now, I wasn't living a bad life. I wasn't living like broke or anything like that. Because I was already working as an engineer, cloud engineer, right? For some time. But I wasn't making big tech money, right? I was living good. Me and my wife we're very thankful people who are satisfied with what we have. But when this came and he told me the amount, that literally, I was already making six figures. I'm just saying that. I was already making six figures. When he told me how much, which doubled the salary, I was like, woo! Now, you got to negotiate, right? So I tried to keep it cool. Like, there's no way this dude can hear me go crazy for the salary. Like, so I was like, that's a good start, man. That's a good start. You know, I'm trying to play it cool. Like, yo, that's a good start because I know I'm going to negotiate this. I'm going to negotiate this contract, right? Listen. So after that, it was like, okay, cool, blah blah. We finished the call. When I clicked end, oh my, I hugged my wife and we were jumping together like, yo, it was crazy, man. That house was insane. Like, if anybody was heard us outside, they would think, what the heck is happening in that house? But that is literally the process and my story of how I got the offer. So it's never a straight line, man. I say that to say it's never a straight line. You can never look at someone's story from the outside and think you have all the details, right? Think you can pass an actual judgment, or you can make some type of assessment based on what you see, because there's always so much more underneath, right? So I say that to say, for anyone who is in an interview process, whether it's at AWS, big tech, or any job, know that sometimes you have to go through a lot of barriers, a lot of running around, a lot of obstacles, a lot of things you never actually prepared for. But just know that the role that is for you, the job that is for you, the thing that God has aligned for you, no one can stop it, right? No one. For me to be able to land that job at Dallas, it's a miracle. Literally, like the whole process was a miracle. So that's my story, man. I hope this inspires you, motivates you, and I'm here just to raise awareness and advocate for TAMs, man. Many people don't know what the TAM role is. Many people don't understand what the TAM role, the value it brings, the impact it brings to for AWS and our customers. So that's what I'll be doing on this channel. I'll continue to educate y'all on this. I'll continue to advocate. I'll continue to inform y'all of the TAM role. One of the other videos I'm looking towards is explaining what the TAM role is and the value we bring to AWS, right? Because really and truly, there's a lot of people who would qualify for TAMs. A lot of people who come in as TAMs come from very diverse backgrounds, man. And the more you guys know and learn about that, the more you can know that you are qualified for this job, and we can get more qualified candidates that can come in and kill it, right? So that's it. Y'all know what it is. This is REXTECH signing out. Make sure you spread the good news of the cloud. Later.